In the first part of the 19th century, Wales is convulsed by the coming of industry. New technology transforms a land that has hardly changed for centuries. And then in the 1840s, things really get going. Railways arrive, and with them comes the modern age. By the end of the 19th century, Wales is heavily industrialised, densely populated in parts, and known the world over for one particular product. All around the world, railway owners and shipping magnates can't get enough of this stuff. It is Welsh steam coal. It's the best you can get. And in the space of 50 years, this treasure transforms the Welsh economy. It puts Wales right on the map. In this chapter of the story of Wales, the country goes through its most dynamic period ever. One Welsh product brings Wales global fame.
The world was turning on South Wales steam coal at that time. What was being done here was truly important.
And another Welsh product, slate, creates even more wealth. The sudden prosperity turns uninhabited valleys into bustling communities, changing Wales forever. It feels like a new dawn, but storm clouds will gather before the day is through. The new start that Wales gets in the middle of the 19th century comes at a critical time. It happens while the country is still reeling from a series of government reports known as the Blue Books. They are notoriously insulting documents, the products of a public inquiry into Welsh education that's bungled by those in charge.
The Englishmen chosen to conduct this inquiry are pretty clueless, really. They have no knowledge of Wales, they have no respect for Welsh culture. They rely for advice on Anglican clergymen, hardly an impartial source. And the Welsh who emerge from these blue books are ignorant peasants. They have lax morals. They speak a useless language. It's an all-out attack, and the impact is immense.
Being written off as gormless yokels, and sinners to boot, horrifies the Welsh. They want to shake off the image, and they do. By the end of the 19th century, they're seen as honest, hard-working people, thanks in part to the coal boom. Surprisingly, perhaps, the spark that ignites the boom is struck not in Wales itself, but in London. In the late 1840s, scientists working for the Admiralty carry out a series of tests on coal samples from all over Britain. They want to find out which region's coal is best suited to powering the steam-driven ships of Her Majesty's Navy. After months of work, they come to a firm conclusion. The coal that burns brightest and longest is the coal that comes from South Wales. In that region, the scientists' conclusion sets minds racing. The leafy valleys of North Glamorgan are known to harbour vast hidden coal reserves. Sharp-witted operators can't wait to get their hands on them. A coal rush begins. It's led by one of Britain's richest men, John Patrick Crichton Stewart, the second Marquess of Bute.
He owns much of the land where the undiscovered coal is thought to lie. He throws himself into finding it. The search takes longer than anyone expects. Butte dies before it can succeed. But succeed it finally does. In 1851, 3 years after Butte's death, his trustees locate a thick seam of high-grade steam coal here in the Rhondda Fawr, the larger of the two Rhondda valleys. A few years later, the Butte Merthyr Colliery, the first coal mine in the Rhondda, opens for business. The miners who come to work in the new pit churn out vast quantities of coal right from the start. When others get wind of the profits being made, they too start looking for black gold. A hard-nosed businessman from mid-Wales, David Davies of Llandinam, leads the way. He's grown rich by building railway lines, but the Butte family's success persuades him to switch to coal. He rents some land in the Rhondda Fawr and starts searching for a workable seam. His men dig and dig, but 15 months go by with no sign of success. The financial strain is appalling, even for a rich man like him. The pressure's on, and he cracks.
Davis can't avoid the truth any longer. He's run out of money. He'd like to go on digging, but he can't. So he gathers his men together and basically pays them the wages that he owes them and appeals for a final chance. He digs his hand into his pocket, takes out a single half-crown coin, about 50 pence today, and says, "There you are, that's all I've got." And someone in the crowd shouts, "We'll have that as well." So he throws the coin into the crowd, and it is that gesture, that impulse, which impresses the men. And they agree to go on working for another 7 days without pay. And on the 7th day, on this piece of land in Tonpentre, they find a massive seam of the best quality steam coal. Everything changes.
Davis gets his first coal mine up and running in no time, and then he opens more. Others get lucky too, and the South Wales coalfield starts to expand. It grows steadily over the next 30 years until it embraces a vast swathe of South Wales. The two Rhondda valleys are joined by 14 others, Carmarthenshire, Monmouthshire and Glamorgan. The lure of steady work makes people flock to these areas from other parts of Wales. In no time at all, their appearance is transformed. Terraced houses and non-conformist chapels spring up where bare hillsides were before. The valleys take on the crammed and bustling look that will define South Wales for decades to come. While coal is bringing massive change to the southern half of Wales, another natural treasure is causing a similar upheaval in the north. This is Penryn Slate Quarry near Bethesda, on the edge of Snowdonia. Industry thrives here earlier than it does in the valleys of the coalfield. This amazing painting of the quarry dates from the 1830s. Ant-like quarrymen swarm over huge terraces carved out of solid rock to get at the precious slate buried in the ground. Some of the techniques quarrymen used at that time are still in use today. But there are big differences between then and now. These days, the work quarrymen do is well supervised and properly paid. In the 19th century, neither of those things is true. Quarrymen then risk life and limb to drag the slate out of the ground and are given a pittance as a reward. Those who own the quarries, on the other hand, do rather better. If you want to get a sense of just how lucrative quarry ownership could be, all you have to do is visit Penryn Castle near Bangor. For much of the 19th century, this remarkable building is owned and occupied by Edward Gordon Douglas Pennant, the first Baron Penrhyn. The owner of Penrhyn Slate Quarry during its most profitable years, he becomes staggeringly rich. You can tell the extent of his wealth simply by looking at this reconstructed table setting. Few people in the long history of Wales can ever have dined in greater luxury than this.
Amid all this astounding splendour, it's tried to be fair to the likes of Baron Penrhyn, because the fact is, they don't keep all of this fabulous wealth to themselves. A small percentage trickles down to the lower classes, and the result is, in Penrhyn's case, he leaves his mark very visibly on the entire North Wales region.
The money generated by the slate industry, and Penrhyn's part of it in particular, funds the growth of Bangor and gives North Wales as a whole a bit of a makeover. Fine buildings spring up, as do impressive piers, like the one at Llandudno. They show the growth of self-confidence that takes place throughout Wales during the reign of Queen Victoria.
It is a new Wales that emerges from the Victorian age, and I'm not just talking about the insatiable Victorian appetite for building new things and for making grand statements. This renewal is cultural and social as well. The sense of Welshness becomes more clearly defined. Quite simply, the Welsh want to make their mark.
And the urge to make a splash can be seen everywhere, but it's especially noticeable in Cardiff. The future capital of Wales enjoys runaway growth during the 1840s and 50s, thanks mainly to the international coal trade. Cardiff is the nearest deep-water port to the coal valleys of North Glamorgan. It grows rich by shipping the output all over the world, and it secures the future at the end of the 1850s by opening a new dock. The East Dock, as it's called, goes on to become a huge success. By the start of the 20th century, a seemingly endless stream of coal-laden boats flows in and out of it every day of the year. Cardiff has become the biggest coal port in the world. Hundreds of shipping companies are based here, and their owners dispatch boatloads of coal to the four corners of the earth. They do massive business deals on a daily basis. Most of those deals are struck inside this historic building, the Coal Exchange in Mount Stewart Square. David Jenkins, a noted expert on the South Wales coal trade, is going to tell me more about what went on here in its heyday.
Well, it's a very impressive space, isn't it?
It is indeed a fantastic space. It is an opulent building that reflected an opulent age. The world was turning on South Wales steam coal at that time. What was being done here was truly important.
So what does a day's work here feel like? What's the experience?
The floor was open between 11 and 2 every day. So at 11 o'clock in the morning, ding, 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 be a big bell ringing, and the principals would come here on the floor and the negotiations would start. Long haggling over a halfpenny on the ton of coal or a penny on the freight rate for a ship carrying coal from here to Port Said. These were the sorts of arguments that went on the floor here. But it was very much our word, our bond. If you shook on a deal, that was sacred. You didn't need to write anything down. That was it. You had a deal.
So what's a good day for them, and how do they celebrate if it is a good day?
Well, just over there was the Exchange restaurant, and if it was a good day, they'd go in there and you could have 5, 6-course lunches there, washed down with claret and champagne. And then, so the story goes, if it had been a particularly good afternoon, it wasn't unknown to play skittles with empty champagne bottles on the floor here.